Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today our topic is on multiplying decimals by whole numbers. Learners, have you ever wondered what happens when you multiply a decimal by a whole number? It is simpler than you think, and today I will show you step by step how to do that. And I assure you that by the end of today's lesson or video, you should be able to multiply any decimals by a whole number. You should also understand how the decimal place values moves. And then you should be able to solve real life problems involving decimals. All right, but before we zoom in or dive in, let's look at some key ideas that you should have in mind when multiplying decimals by whole numbers. The first idea is that always ignore the decimal first. Always ignore the decimal first and multiply as if it were a whole number. So assuming that you were having, let's say 0.2 times, assuming you're having 0.2 times 10, or let's say times 5. So now you forget or ignore the decimals and make it 2 times 5. So you multiply direct, ignoring the decimals. And the second one says that then place the decimal point back to the answer. So now you ignore the decimal point, then you multiply. This gives you probably 10. So now you have 10 as the answer. So you bring back the decimal point. How do you do that? You take note of this caution. Count the decimal places in the decimal numbers. The answer must have the same number of decimal places. So what it means is that this one is having one decimal places. The 0.2 is having one decimal places. So the answer should also have one decimal place. So what it means is that as you get 10, you stand in front, then you move 1 back to left. You are moving 1 back to left. So you move 1. So it means that 0.25 times 10, the answer is 1.0. This is basically what it is about. All right, I hope this helped. And then we move on to look at the steps that we'll take to arrive at some examples that we'll be looking at. All right. So now, let's look at these steps because they are very important when multiplying decimals by whole numbers. All right, so we have steps to follow. Okay, so let's move on to look at these steps. All right, so these are the steps that we are to follow, okay, when multiplying whole numbers or decimals by whole numbers. The first thing is multiply the numbers ignoring the decimals, as we have seen in the ideas I gave you earlier. Then you count the decimal places in the decimal number. So you count the decimal places. This place, it has it has one decimal place. So you count the number of decimal places. So this one has only one decimal place. What it means is that the number of digits after the decimal point gives you the number of decimal places it has. So it has only one digit after the decimal point, meaning it has only one decimal place. Then after that, place the decimal point in the answer. So it has the same number of decimal places as the decimal number. So if it has one decimal place, as in this case, then the answer should also be in one decimal place, as in 1.0. So it should also have the same decimal places as this. So you see 1.0 is having what? One decimal place, meaning it has one digit after the decimal point. And then you simplify if necessary. There are times that you have to what? Simplify. So let's dive in to look at some examples of this particular multiplying decimals by whole numbers. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. Example number 1. So example number 1 is multiply 3 by 0.4. So we are moving according to what? The steps that we've seen earlier. So the first thing is what? You ignore the decimal point. So this will be 3 times what? 4. And this gives us what? 12. So now you ask yourself, how many decimal place is the decimal number? It has only one digit after the decimal place or the decimal point. So it has only one decimal places. Hence, the answer should also be in what? One decimal place. So you stand in front of the number and then you move ones to the left. So this brings it to the middle. So the decimal point will now come here, giving you what? 1.2. So it tells you that therefore 3 times 0.4 is equal to 1.2 as our answer. All right, so let's look at example number 2 to be able to understand fully. All right, example number 2, it says what? We should multiply 7 by 0.35. 7, example 2, multiply 7 by 0.25. 0.35. 0.35. So the first step is 1, you count the number of decimal places it has. It has 2 decimal places. So we have 7. So you ignore, the first step is to ignore the decimal point. So you ignore the decimal point. So you have 7 times what? 35. So you ignore the decimal point. Then 7 by 35. You can use the vertical method to arrive at the answer. So you write 35 by 7. 5 times 7 is 35. So you write your 5, remaining 3. Then 3 times 7 is 21. And add it to this, you get 24. So we have what? 7 times 35 gives us what? 245. 245. So since we have 245, now as our answer, we write 245. Then they said you bring the decimal point back. Now you ask yourself, how many decimal places does it have? How many digits are there after the decimal point? It has 2 digits. So this one, it means you stand in front, then you move 2 times to the left. So 1, then 2. The decimal point will now come here, giving you what? 2.45. Therefore, 7 times 0.35 is equal to 2.45. I hope that is clear as well. Now let's look at some application examples that involves application. So examples that involve what? Application. So we have what? The third example number 3. It said a small bottle of juice contains 0.75 liters. Okay, so now if Kofi buys 4, if Kofi buys 4 bottles, how much juice does he have in total? have in total? So this is a clear question, a very clear one, of course, which we are going to solve simply, okay? So don't panic how long it is, but it's very simple and easy to solve and understand. All right, so let's look at the solution. So the solution, we says that a small bottle of what juice contains 0.75 liters, and if Kofi, so there's a full stop here, if Kofi buys 4 bottles, how much juice does he have in total? So what it means is that now one bottle has 0.75 liters. So in arriving at the total uh, juice that he has, you have to multiply that 0.75 by the total bottles that are there, which is 4 bottles. Okay, so we have 0.75 times what? 4. And as the steps we look at earlier stated, you first ignore what? The decimal point. Hence, you'll be having 75 by 4. And using the vertical method, we have 75, then times what? We have 4. So 5, 4, 20, you write 0, remember 2, 4, 7, 28, plus 2, 30. So our final answer gives us what? 300. Now, since we have 300, that is not the end. The next step says what? We should bring back what? The decimal point. Now, first of all, you have to count the number of decimal places the digit what has. And 0.75 has 2 decimal places. So it means that you have to stand in front here and move the decimal place or the decimal point 2 times to the left. So you stand here, you move 1, and you move 2. So the decimal point will now be here, telling you that our final answer will be 3.00. Therefore, um, 0.75 times what? 4 is equal to what? 3.00. So it means you have 3.00 liters of juice. All right. So, brethren, I believe that this is clear and it really helped you. So it is now your turn to what? To answer your question. It's now your turn to what? To answer yours. So you can pause the video, solve these examples, and then come back to compare with the answers that what I'll be providing you. Okay, so this is your assignment. For assignment number 1, we have 5 times 0.6. And then assignment number 2, we have 8 times 0.25. And then assignment number 3, you have 3 times, you have 3 times 1.2. All right, so the answer keys, the answers are 1, we have what? 3.0, then we have 2.0, then we have what? 3.6. So you can pause the video, then solve those questions, and then after that you come back to check if your answers are correct. So remember, today we've learned how to multiply decimals by whole numbers by ignoring the decimal first, then place the decimal back correctly in the answer. Practice with real-life examples will help you understand this clearly. And once you master this, you can multiply decimals quickly and accurately. It is an excellent work today, and then I enjoy your company. And then if you really enjoyed this lesson, try more examples at home and comment your answers in the comment section. And then in our next lesson, we will learn more on decimals, how to divide decimals by powers of 10 and even by whole numbers. Brethren or learners, remember to subscribe to the channel if you are yet to. Hit the notification bell so that anytime I release a new video, you'll be able to access it. Thank you so much for your time, and God bless you. See you in our next lesson. Bye bye.